as the eye wall began to hit us, the winds went from scary to terrifying.
It crossed my mind that we had made a bad decision.
They got a whole family out there in the water.
I never in a million years imagined that I was going to lose everything again.
Sandy is definitely coming into New York City.
I did not see a living thing. It was apocalyptic.
We've always had extreme weather. But over the last 20 years, as climate change has accelerated, it has mutated and become more dangerous and unpredictable. From dry lightning, to the polar vortex, to bomb cyclones, and the fire-nado. Welcome to the new reality. Welcome to mutant weather. As the climate changes, heating up the Earth, megastorms are striking coastal cities around the world with greater frequency and intensity.
If temperatures are warmer across the globe, both on land and in the ocean, we could see more moisture-laden storms. They could be more devastating.
Fundamentally, what people have to realize is that the weather of the past in a particular location is not a good predictor of the weather of the future.
Since 1950, as the population and industry have grown, more greenhouse gases are being produced, which in turn are trapping heat and causing the Earth's temperature to rise. Warmer oceans and moisture-laden air are creating the conditions for mutant megastorms. From Nova Scotia to New York, East Africa to South China, nowhere is safe.
We've materially changed the dynamics of the climate. By burning fossil fuels, we've actually changed the chemistry of the atmosphere, and it's being realized in the form of the manifestation of extreme weather events.
It's the extremes that we have to keep an eye on because those are what impact society.
August 2017. In Houston, Texas, a typical late summer storm is brewing, fueled by distant Hurricane Harvey.
Friday night, it started raining a little bit. It was off and on here and there.
Mother of three, Aisha Nelson, follows along on Twitter as her mayor tells Houston to stay calm and stay put.
I went to the grocery store because the mayor said we didn't have to leave, just buy stuff and keep it in the house in case we have to be stuck inside for a couple of days. We're going to expect a little flooding. I told my boys, I said, if it's storm and we get in here and the lights will go out, we're going to barbecue everything in the deep freezer. So they was like laughing and thinking it was crazy.
For Aisha, Harvey is nothing she can't handle.
I'm used to the flooding because we always have a little flood in the apartments I live in.
What was really interesting about Harvey is that it happened in a place, Houston, Texas, and surrounding areas where they get a lot of rainfall and flooding. They experience flooding all of the time. And so people were like, we're used to flooding. This is not going to be a big deal.
12 hours after making landfall, Harvey is downgraded to a tropical storm. It appears the worst is over.
It was clear, no rain, water, everything was dry. So that evening, we all were gonna go by my sister's house. So about 9 o'clock, I'm on my way to my sister's house. It started raining really, really hard. I could barely see. It was flooding in areas and everything.
Veteran hurricane researcher Hal Needham is tracking Harvey's path. His reaction is very different from Aisha's.
The night before Hurricane Harvey hit, I was in town, I was looking at the forecast, and my heart was just pounding. It was after midnight, and I could not sleep. And what concerned me was all the ingredients were there, that it was becoming more likely something catastrophic could happen. I felt like it was going to blindside a lot of people. There were no mass evacuations. A lot of people let their guard down, and so my concern was a lot of people are going to flood that have never flooded before.
October 2018. High on the Florida Panhandle sits a sleepy town called Mexico Beach. While hurricanes come close, residents have managed to miss the devastation.
My family moved here in 1953. We've been in business here since that day.
Hey, Connor, where have you been?
66 years I have dealt with coastal living, coastal weather patterns, hurricanes, been part of many of them.
Mayor Al Cathy is on a first-name basis with nasty weather.
Hurricane Opal, Kate, Irma, we have years of looking and watching and paying attention to hurricanes, everything always went somewhere else.
Recent hurricane history seems to back up the mayor.
The west coast of Florida is somewhat sheltered. Typically in that stretch of the country, especially getting farther east in the Panhandle, we haven't seen anything that strong ever.
And this time, again, it looks like the pattern is holding and hurricane season is nearly over. In the northwestern Pacific, megastorms are called typhoons. In the Indian Ocean, cyclones. And in the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico, hurricanes. What they all have in common is they feast on waters heated by the warming planet.
The Atlantic hurricane season, which often affects us here in the United States, typically starts in June, but it peaks in September. And that's because although the air temperatures are warm in June, the ocean temperatures take a bit longer.
600 miles south of Mexico Beach, Tropical Storm Michael is creeping across the Gulf.
Hurricanes require very warm ocean temperatures to form. The Gulf of Mexico was perfect. It was like a bath in terms of the water temperatures.
Hurricanes really start by having a cluster of thunderstorms over warm water. And as the cluster grows, air gets sucked into the middle and we get this low pressure. And because the Earth's surface is curved, it starts spinning. Michael had the environment that just produced these towering thunderstorms that just developed and developed.
Later that day, Florida's governor declares a state of emergency.
Right now, Tropical Storm Michael has 50-mile-an-hour winds and is forecast to move slower and grow stronger, making landfall as a Category 2 storm.
There's a classification system called the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale that's really based upon damage and impacts of those winds. So those categories are 1 through 5. The higher the number, the more catastrophic.
Category 2 storms are serious, gusting between 96 and 110 miles per hour.
Right now, about 100 miles out of the ice, there's strong winds at the surface.
On Monday, it was Category 2 floundering around somewhere in the Gulf. In the back of our mind, it'll do like all the other storms. It'll go west, it'll go east, it'll die down.
What the mayor doesn't realize is that unusually warm waters and favorable winds are creating perfect conditions ripe to turn Tropical Storm Michael into a monster. In Houston, Texas, Aisha Nelson is on her way to her sister's apartment complex, seeking refuge from Hurricane Harvey's relentless rains.
As we got to my sister's house, we went inside. I was soaking wet, but the news said it wasn't gonna be that bad. So I went to bed, went to sleep, thinking it was gonna be fine.
Harvey was just about to unleash all of its fury on Houston, and that was in the form of rainfall.
Harvey was very different. It made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane, meaning the winds were really intense. But for days, it just stalled along the Texas coast.
Hurricanes move by winds caused by high and low pressure systems. Sometimes these winds slow down or push against each other, causing hurricanes to get stuck or stall until the winds change and push the storm forward again.
With these stalling hurricanes, it'll park down the coast from you, and for days you'll get these bands of tremendous rainfall that come in, but there might be 12 or 15 hours between bands. So all of a sudden the sun is out, everything looks okay, and then another band of rain comes in. So it's really hard to communicate to people that you're really in for a multi-day flood event where you could get 30, 40, 50 inches of rain. We've been seeing a lot of these in recent years.
In Hurricane Harvey, it was these constant trains of moisture, these training thunderstorms that just kept dropping more and more rainfall.
This is one of the calling cards of climate change because we know that when the atmosphere is warmer, there's more water vapor available, and that really is the fuel supply for these storms.
At her sister's apartment complex, Aisha Nelson awakes to find herself trapped. More than a foot of rain has fallen overnight.
Sunday morning, we get up to try to go see if the water went down. The water started coming in her apartment, and I was telling them, I'm like, look, it looked like it's gonna be bad.
In the Gulf of Mexico, Hurricane Michael is gaining strength and heading straight for the Florida Panhandle.
Michael is a dangerous major hurricane that is currently about 200 miles south-southwest of Apalachicola, Florida. And it's moving in a northerly direction about 12 miles per hour.
It had the right look, It had the right ocean temperatures. There wasn't any wind that it was battling. It was the perfect scenario, or the worst scenario.
Maximum sustained winds have increased to about 125 miles per hour. Additional strengthening is possible.
Mexico Beach has dodged the full force of mutant megastorms in the past, but they're not prepared for Hurricane Michael.
Hurricane Michael is going to be a devastating storm to a part of Florida that's not seen a storm of this magnitude in quite some time. The time to evacuate and heed the local warnings is now.
What made Hurricane Michael unique is that this did not start as an Atlantic long-track hurricane. This started right close to home. It was born in the Gulf of Mexico. It took no time for it to intensify very quickly, which really made for difficult evacuation plans because it ramped up very quickly.
On Tuesday afternoon, there was about 225 names on the list that people who had stayed.
Mayor Al Cathy has to make a choice: stay and hope Hurricane Michael misses, or evacuate.
We decided to go to bed, get up Wednesday morning, and make a decision. About 2 o'clock that morning, the storm took a more direct eye, an upgrade to a 4, and by the time Wednesday morning came, it was too late to leave.
Scientists have a name for this sudden escalation of a hurricane's force.
One of the things that worries me as a scientist about hurricanes is that we're seeing more rapid intensification. If you look at Hurricane Michael from 2018, a rapidly intensifying storm just before landfall.
Rapid intensification is when a storm increases its maximum sustained winds by at least 35 miles per hour in a day.
All of a sudden, you're jumping several categories of intensity in that last 24 hours before landfall. Since 1950, if we take a list of the 7 hurricanes that intensified most rapidly before landfall, 4 of those 7 happened since 2005. We're starting to see a lot more of these.
Rapidly intensifying megastorms are leveling coastal cities and killing multiple people across the globe, including in March 2019 when Cyclone Idai devastates the coast of East Africa, leaving more than 1,300 dead, making it one of the most deadly tropical cyclones to hit the area. 2 months later, Cyclone Fani strikes, killing 89 in eastern India and Bangladesh and causing $8.1 billion in damage. And in August of 2019, Typhoon Clima kills dozens in China and brings severe flooding, forcing over 1 million people to evacuate.
Something that's particularly concerning about climate change and extreme weather, as people with the least amount of carbon footprint or emission profile are most vulnerable. We know that these storms in general are projected to become stronger as climate warms.
When people talk about, oh, we still have 10 years to avert the catastrophe, this is nonsense. And I think we're at a point where we all need to behave as adults and look at it clearly and honestly. We're morally obliged to do everything we can to try to do the right thing.
Disadvantaged populations are going to continue to bear the brunt of floods, heat waves, and hurricanes.
In Mexico Beach, Florida, feeding off the Gulf's warm waters, Hurricane Michael is mutating into a Category 5 megastorm.
I was actually in Mexico Beach the night before Michael hit. At the time, it was a Category 2, expecting maybe it could be a Cat 3 or Cat 4. Really, the idea of it being a Cat 5 was really an outlier. We didn't really expect that to happen. Category 5 hurricanes start at 157 miles an hour, and generally they're getting up into the 160s, 170s, and those are maximum sustained winds. Those aren't gusts. It's just catastrophic. It can take a piece of straw and drive it through a telephone pole.
Mayor Al Cathy is regretting his decision not to evacuate.
We huddled up there and said, look, let's just prepare, get us some water, get some things. It crossed my mind that we had made a bad decision.
October 2012, 1,200 miles away from Mexico Beach and its population of just over 1,000, Hurricane Sandy is churning northwards, heading straight for New York City. Population 8 million.
Possibly some thunderstorms near the center, which may make it a little dicey. And they're also reporting some turbulence in this quadrant. This is where the strongest winds were found.
Is any fool in New York flying right now?
Besides us.
Sandy was an unusual storm. Most hurricanes, when they are at that latitude, are moving northeast at a very, very rapid rate. Out to sea, gone, they might affect Nova Scotia. Sandy made a left-hand turn just as it reached New York City. Hurricanes don't do that.
Just a little past 5 o'clock here in New York City, and it's already starting to drizzle a little bit.
Storm chaser Mark Robinson rushes to New York to observe this historic event.
Usually when I get to an area where a hurricane is about to strike, everybody's been evacuated, there's hardly anybody on the streets, and it's kind of eerie. And yet here in New York, only a few of them had cleared out. So it was like business as usual in New York City, even though this was going to be an extremely damaging hurricane.
We're already seeing significant impacts from the storm, and the worst of it is about to hit. This is dangerous. If you don't need to be outside, don't take the risk.
It's all about where the storm hits, not so much about how strong it actually is. There's just no other part of the United States other than, say, Los Angeles that has that many people and that much potential for infrastructure to get damaged.
In Houston, Aisha Nelson and her children have been stranded in an apartment complex for 24 hours. The rain keeps coming, and floodwaters are over 2 feet deep.
The water started reaching up to like the 3rd step in the apartment. My friend's daughter said the water is coming in through the back and it looked like her walls are starting to cave. I told her, I said, start unplugging everything in the house at the bottom so it won't catch on fire. And so I told him to fill a tub up with water so in case somebody has to use the bathroom, we can still flush the toilets and stuff. I told everybody that we need to go upstairs.
Facing an unprecedented flooding disaster for Houston, everyone in the apartment turns to Aisha.
I have 3 boys, but I also had their friends with me too. I was responsible for other people's kids. So it was like 7 kids I was responsible for. Not only did we have the Hispanic neighbors came from the other side, then we had another set of family coming where we were at. So and now it's like 30 of us. We all just sitting in the room. I had to go in survival mode to where I had 30 plus people looking at me.
12 years earlier, Aisha lost everything but her life in the deadliest natural disaster to hit the United States in almost a century.
Because I went through Hurricane Katrina, everybody just instantly thought that I just knew what to do.
Hurricane Katrina is now designated a Category 5 hurricane. We cannot stress enough the danger this hurricane poses to Gulf Coast communities.
Katrina caused more than $100 billion in damage and over 1,800 deaths. On the Florida Panhandle, mutant megastorm Michael slams into the coast as a Category 5 hurricane. With winds roaring at 161 miles per hour.
The storm started around 11 o'clock. I knew within 30 minutes that it was a different storm than Mexico Beach had ever experienced. By 12 o'clock, you could not see the shrubbery right outside our window. We could hear, of course, things hitting the house. But we couldn't see nothing. And it was eerie to not know what was going on outside other than by sound. We huddled up and prayed and hugged everybody.
Al Cathy is blindsided by a mutant megastorm phenomenon called a whiteout.
Sometimes when you're talking about a winter storm, we talk about whiteouts. It can happen in a hurricane too, where the water droplets and the rain are moving so fast that you literally can't see 5 to 10 feet in front of you. And it's just a wall of water.
The entire world turns into white fog.
Storm chaser Mark Robinson is on the ground as Michael makes landfall.
The thing that I remember most about Hurricane Michael was the roar. It's the kind of thing that you don't hear as much as you feel it. As the winds began to really ramp up, we knew that the eye wall was approaching, strongest part of the hurricane. And as the eye wall began to hit us, the winds went from scary to terrifying.
We have big glass windows and doors, and you could see them flexing from the pressure. It was like an airplane. Your ears, you could feel it in the house. I said, if that window breaks, it's going to suck everything out of this house.
In Houston, residents are desperate. Floodwaters are over 3 feet deep, and there are reports of multiple drownings.
We just got rescued out, so this is the first time we even seen how much water it has been, so it's crazy.
I have never experienced anything like this. I didn't even imagine that it was going to be this catastrophic.
Aisha Nelson, her family, and neighbors are trapped in a tiny apartment, watching the floodwaters rise higher.
That day, the rain was coming down so hard. When you step down into the water, it would have been up over your head almost. And I can't swim, so I was so terrified.
People is drowning. The people underneath the bush over there, and they holding on. They got people on the roof over there, too. Oh, my God.
By Tuesday night, Harvey has dropped more than 50 inches of water, and there's no end in sight.
We don't have no food. I haven't ate in 2 days. No water. My baby is dehydrated. All my baby doing is sleeping.
All we kept hearing is alarms and sirens going off of the emergency system, and it was just like, that was just another thing that was just terrifying.
I'm praying that they get us, because if they don't get us soon, they're not gonna get us at all.
4148 North St. Andrews, Prowler, not safe.
Because Harvey stalled, it brought in several days of several thunderstorms. And in each thunderstorm, they were filled with tropical moisture. These are moisture-laden thunderstorms. So just tons of rainfall out of each one of these. And you start training thunderstorms over the same city for 2 days that's already prone to flooding, you've got a big problem.
Houston sits on top of wetlands and has poor natural drainage. After 3 days of Hurricane Harvey, the ground is utterly saturated.
The forest, the fields, the wetlands that were originally here, they're now gone. They're paved over, and when the water comes down and hits these areas, it doesn't absorb.
At the apartment, Aisha decides to move her family to higher ground.
I decided to get on the roof because when I looked out the window across the street, the buildings were starting to come apart from the water. So I was getting afraid, and I was like, the next step, the highest place we can go is the roof. I just wanted to make sure we had at least a way out.
But there's a problem.
This window pane right up here was about the size of the window. The window was so small. I could barely fit through the window, and my son's friend is a heavy-set guy. He might be about 300 pounds, and I was worried about him, so if we had to get on the roof, I didn't want to leave this little boy behind.
With 30 people relying on her and with no tools, Aisha must improvise quickly.
I took a 20-pound dumbbell and broke the window. And once I got the frame out, I took 2 pillows and put it inside the windowsill so they won't cut themselves. I was not gonna leave that apartment without those kids. I don't think I would be able to live with myself.
On the Florida Panhandle, mutant megastorm Michael is unleashing absolute destruction.
Right now, you can barely see beyond a football field ahead of you. The trees are blowing sideways. Where I'm looking at from the foyer of this hotel, the wind just blew open the exterior doors. Yeah, it's bad.
It was full bore. We're in the middle of an eye of the storm. We have sustained winds of over 150 miles an hour. The house hit my house, by the grace of God, held together. I have never seen the likes of anything like this, never.
Michael was a scary storm. When you're talking winds over 250 kilometers an hour, that takes apart buildings. That means debris is flying through the air. If you're in a car and you get struck by a steel pole, that's going through the car. It's not even gonna slow down when it enters your body.
Michael is the first Category 5 hurricane to make landfall in the United States in more than 25 years.
Category 5, those winds matter. When you're talking about winds over 250 kilometers an hour and above, sustained, that will wipe everything out in its path.
As destructive as hurricane winds can be, they are not the deadliest part of these megastorms.
We often think about the hurricane wind because that's what the category number is based on, but really what kills most people is the flooding. So about 50% of people die from saltwater storm surge.
Storm surge is where you have the momentum of the hurricane for days piling up the water on the one side of the storm, and it literally grows and grows and grows, and you can see the surge coming in, and that gets pushed on shore. You know, a lot of people lose their cars, lose their homes.
Hurricane Michael pushed this 15 to 16 foot wall of water across Mexico Beach and areas just east of Panama City. I interviewed these two guys. They're talking on the phone and saying, "Where's the neighbor's house?" Gone. They're just trying to survive the storm. The water's up to their neck, and they're just being tossed in and out of rooms and being sucked in and out of rooms in their homes. Crazy, I mean, crazy, crazy story.
One of the biggest threats of climate change is sea level rise. As we see glacier melt, as we see the ice sheets melting, that adds fresh water to the oceans and elevates the sea level.
That's really water added on top of the storm surge levels. It's becoming more likely that something catastrophic is going to happen, becoming more likely that people are going to flood that never flooded before.
On America's eastern seaboard, Hurricane Sandy is mere miles from making landfall in New York City. Mark Robinson tracks the incoming megastorm from Rockaway Beach.
Even though Sandy was still offshore, I remember kneeling down on the boardwalk as this storm began to come in, and you could feel the whole boardwalk lifting up with every single wave.
Mark knows New York is in trouble.
Sandy is really beginning to make itself felt here in the north shore of Long Island. You can see the flooding behind me. In fact, I'm up to my knees in water right now. Sandy is definitely coming into New York City and making a huge mess.
The biggest culprit in Sandy was storm surge. The surge was going to be at its highest at the exact moment the tide was going to be at its highest. Not only for the day, but for the month. And that meant that New York City was going to be dealing with surge like they'd never seen before. I remember walking down a street and looking at a sewer grate, like a manhole cover, and there was water shooting out of that. And I thought, that's not right. The water's supposed to go the other way.
That definitely makes me nervous. That is water coming out of the sewers.
The New York City subway, which is extensive, it goes everywhere in New York, that stood a real potential of getting completely flooded, and that's exactly what happened.
A hurricane really produces a storm surge that has several destructive elements. The initial storm surge pushes in very rapidly, can cause a loss of life. It can cause, a lot of damage to buildings, but then the salt water stays around for a while and it can soak into the ground. Buildings can start to corrode and fall apart. A year or two after that storm, all of a sudden you're seeing construction fall apart. Why? Because it was inundated by salt water.
This is Bond and Carroll Streets in Aquinas, and it's windy.
When you put salt water into electrical anything, you're asking for serious problems.
In Houston, with floodwaters cresting at 60 inches, Aisha Nelson has run out of places to seek refuge from Hurricane Harvey.
We're on the roof now. We got on the roof about 4 in the morning. It's pouring down, raining. We have blankets on top of us. We all huddled up. It's like 30 of us getting soaking wet. We'll go in and out of the window. to try to stay a little dry so we won't be sick. And then the sun is starting to come up, but it's still raining hard. And it's like the rain don't want to stop.
As the sun rises, Aisha sees Harvey swallowing up her adopted city.
There was these 3 girls holding on to a tree, and they were trying to hold one of the girls up, but the current was so strong, it ripped the clothes off of the girl, and they couldn't hold her no more. Once they let her go, her body was hooked on a fence. I found out that girl was actually a girl that I knew. I offered her to come over with us to the house, and she told us she was gonna go by a friend's house. That really kind of messed me up because I had just talked to her.
Aisha is running out of time and hope.
Me, my niece, my sister, we all were calling different places trying to get us some help. Things was getting intense for me and my family and everybody around me.
I see 3 dead bodies. Lord, please help us.
I just knew that we needed help. And Facebook was my only platform that I had at the time. I was just really trying to get out of harm's way. It was terrifying that it was so much water and it was too much water to drink, so I was afraid.
It's just unbelievable. We never experienced anything like this.
Aisha's desperate pleas for help go viral. Rescuers are dispatched. But Aisha, her family, and 25 others have to brave Harvey's treacherous floodwaters to reach them.
Once we came down off the roof, we had to go outside. The water was over the cars, but we had to walk through that water to get to the boat. I let my oldest son take my baby with him because I didn't know if I was gonna see my kids again. I wanted all the kids to go and be safe because, you know, they're young and they had a life to live. I lived. If it was my time to go, I would have went.
A day after Hurricane Sandy makes landfall, New Yorkers are sifting through the wreckage looking for survivors.
I'm right by the boardwalk. People are walking around. It's about 10 a.m. and someone's apartment is full of sand.
Sandy hit us very hard. It was a storm of historic intensity. Unfortunately, so far we've had 18 fatalities citywide as a result of this storm.
The most unique part of Hurricane Sandy was the number of people that it affected. If it had gone a little further north with the same amount of wind and surge, it wouldn't have hit the most populated part of the United States. I remember standing in a park just underneath one of the major bridges that lead from Queens into Manhattan, and I'm staring at a city that is normally lit up with, there's activity. Doesn't matter what time of day, New York is always going. And this storm, Hurricane Sandy, had managed to silence it.
Hurricane Sandy kills 147 people, including 48 in New York. It's the 4th costliest storm in U.S. history, causing an estimated $70 billion in damage.
We are starting to see more and more billion-dollar weather events, and I think many of the corporate entities in the United States are starting to recognize that.
On the Florida Panhandle, residents awaken to the ruins left by Hurricane Michael's winds and storm surge.
We are in Mexico Beach. This is a total mess.
This morning, Florida's Gulf Coast, Panhandle, and Big Bend are waking up to unimaginable destruction. This hurricane was an absolute monster. So many families have lost everything. So many lives have been changed forever.
Thursday morning, walking on Highway 98, the devastation was everywhere. There were just piles of debris. There were people going through those piles trying to find a picture or a shoe or, you know, some personal belonging. It destroyed our water tank, it destroyed our civic center, it took our fire department away, it took our police department buildings away, it took our meeting house.
We are in Mexico Beach, just after
As the mayor, I went from being someone that, hey, my water bill's not right, or my garbage didn't get picked up, to how do we put our lives back together?
We haven't had no way to connect with people other than walking around trying to find people, but this is unbelievable. This storm was, I mean, catastrophic's not even the word for it.
I've watched TV for years and seen people crying in the street and their houses are destroyed, and I've always thought, what a terrible loss. But until you live it, you can't, the feelings are different. And I can speak firsthand. I mean, that just took me to my knees. 80% of our city was destroyed during Hurricane Mike. How can Mother Nature in 3 hours do that?
Crazy.
I ended up hiking through a swamp for 2 hours. I had to traverse over new ravines that were cut from water. I did not see a living thing. I didn't see any flies, any mosquitoes, no birds, no fish, no snakes or frogs or reptiles, nothing. It was like the whole world was dead. And I think what happened is it pushed in such a violent storm surge. I didn't see the carcasses of any animals. I think it just sucked them all out to sea.
We had 4 fatalities. But considering the level of devastation, I mean, to me, that's a miracle. I hate that we had any fatalities, but to see what our town looked like, I think that's a miraculous number. That's the 3rd largest recorded storm in the history of the United States that's ever hit a populated coastal area. Can you imagine what Mike would have done to a more densely populated area?
In Houston, Aisha and her family are finally safe and finding refuge in the city's convention center.
I cried like a baby because I was just so happy it was safe.
Although dry and on solid ground, the trauma of Hurricane Harvey remains with Aisha and her family.
They got to see everything, and I know they remember some stuff. And like with my oldest son, I feel like he deal with anger issues now. My middle son, he don't really say too much. He's really quiet. He keep a lot of stuff bottled inside. My baby, if he see rain and thunder, he's running and getting under the cover, or he's telling me, we gotta move. A storm is coming. You know, he's terrified. When I sleep, all those pictures kept popping back up in my head about those people that drowned. And I really think I have like depression a little bit because with the last storm that was coming, I got into a panic. I'm starting to live life to the fullest and trying to do things that I never done before because I know that life is not promised and things happen within a blinking of an eye.
All evidence points to a reckoning with mutant weather.
We know the climate is changing, it's warming. Sea surface temperatures are warming. We're seeing storms intensify more rapidly. We're seeing other storms stall out and dump tremendous rainfall.
I don't know how well you can hear me because of the wind, but it is about 6:30 in the morning on Man-O-War Key.
In September 2019, a new mutant megastorm rapidly intensifies before making landfall. Category 5 Hurricane Dorian stalls over the northern Bahamas. With 185-mile-per-hour winds, it obliterates everything in its path. Rising sea levels contribute to a massive 23-foot storm surge. To the world, Dorian is a harbinger of future deadly mutant weather.
With all the studies that we've had and all of the worst case projections, we are in the crisis deep enough right now. It's not future tense. We probably will be looking at possibly a Category 6 category now for hurricanes.
Coastal cities could soon face a new type of megastorm, Category 6 hurricanes, with sustained wind of over 200 miles per hour and potential storm surges of 17 feet or higher.
We've always had these vicious storms, and Climate science suggests that these storms are having higher impact now. We're really loading the atmosphere with carbon dioxide, heat-trapping gases, and we're seeing, higher CO2 levels than we've ever seen before. We're trapping heat. We're seeing warmer climate, warmer oceans, and we're seeing a lot of ice sheets starting to melt. You add a hurricane on top of that, you're in a lot of trouble.
A third of the world's population lives within striking distance of a catastrophic coastal megastorm. And with each hurricane season, more and more lives are impacted by living on the front lines of mutant weather.
Here we are 9 months after the storm, and you still see this. There's just a great indication of how ferocious this thing was. You can't overcome 17.5 feet of storm surge and 150-mile-an-hour sustained winds. We can't do it.
After going through Katrina and then Harvey, if another storm comes and it says it's coming towards Texas of any sorts, I'm gonna take my family and we're gonna just leave. Because I can't take the chances of going through a third storm. I can't go through another one.
If rapidly intensifying megastorms and stalling hurricanes are the new normal, can humankind survive the coming mutant weather?
There's more Katrinas, more Hurricane Sandys coming, and they're going to be of greater magnitude and intensity than the past.
We know that the warmer the ocean water, the easier it is to sustain a hurricane and to develop a tropical system. So if we think of global ocean temperatures being warmer, that could mean that we see more of a favorable environment for hurricanes to develop.
We can no longer get too anchored on the wind speed or the category of the storm. We have to look at the rain potential of the storm, how fast the storm is moving, or is it going to stall out?
We cannot cheat the system when it comes to climate change. If we try to cheat the system, we're going to lose, and increasingly so, we're losing around the world.
People ask me often, do you have hope? And the hope I would have is that we will treat each other decent and we will start to behave in a better relation with the earth now while we still can. Because the crisis is upon us, and today is better than tomorrow.